Hello and welcome again to Pyat's Fortress. Pyat here, with part 2 of my Steam Tunnel Expedition series that I have put together for a Christmas present for you, my viewers. I realize Christmas has slipped on a bit, but let's consider this a 2010 present instead. As you may recall from the last episode, we were talking about the 30th anniversary of the Steam Tunnel incident. That incident in August of 1979, when James Dallas Egbert, a young man attending university in Michigan, disappeared from sight, and there was some speculation that he had vanished into the steam tunnels under his university while involved in a game of Dungeons & Dragons. The truth turned out to be rather different, but the media attention that this case generated certainly made life interesting for gamers for a long time. It was also the inspiration for Mazes and Monsters, and sort of served to establish a genre of schlocky horror movies about gamers who go crazy. At any rate, in November of 2009, I traveled to Chicago to Midwest Furfest. Again, you may recall my coverage of that event last year. This year I spoke to Dianna and David Harlan Stein, who were both gamers in the late 1970s in Michigan. Dianna is a well-known fantasy artist and illustrator who has been running a Dungeons & Dragons campaign since the late 70s, and she and her husband had some personal experiences with the Dallas Egbert incident, with the Dallas incident, where they were called upon to comfort local parents and reassure them, and to do demonstrations for media and for parents about Dungeons & Dragons. And they have an interesting perspective on things, so without further blying and umming and ahhing for me, let's go to David and Dianna. I apologize for the quality of the audio in some of the segments. It was a very crowded convention hall in one case. So we have this is fantasy artist Dianna Harlan Stein.
Hello!
So Dianna, when did you start playing Dungeons & Dragons?
I discovered Dungeons & Dragons at my university in 1977. And then when the year changed, I became a dungeon master, and I have played most every Sunday since then. So
you've been playing the same campaign?
Same campaign, 30 years. James Dallas Egbert disappearance caused quite a fervor. We had people calling us for the university because we had a Sunday night game, and we took over part of the cafeteria area, and everybody had a little table with their campaign or their game running, usually the dungeon in those days, because nobody had a campaign, you just had a dungeon. And we had table after table after table, and we'd have people show up and look. What are you doing? I heard about this on the news. We had some people come down from the radio station. We've had people who just poked in. My daughter was involved in this Dungeons & Dragons. I hear it's satanic. Oh no. And then we went to her house and met her parents to assure them that we were not worshippers of Satan. And we had all these people going, oh my goodness. And we're like, oh, you have a player piano. You have saltwater taffy. They loved us afterwards because they met us and they realized, you know.
You were harmless nerds. Mostly harmless.
Mostly harmless.
Well, it's interesting because, we heard about it and we went, our initial thought was, oh great, some kid couldn't handle school, went nuts and screaming into the night. And we didn't really think anything of it. And then slowly the news picked up on this, and it exploded the way only a media story can, something that the media thinks is salacious can explode. So we kept hearing more and more about it, and then we started getting inquiries. They would call the activity office at the school and say, does anyone at your school play that terrible Dungeons & Dragons game? And we actually were really good terms with the people that ran the student organization, so they would just forward to us.
WRIF, which is a big rock and roll radio station, and they had a lot of people who were interested in Dungeons & Dragons because rock and roll was part of the culture, and the parents were all like, we don't know what this is, but we can contact the radio station, we can contact the newspapers, and the university got a hold of us and said, you guys run Dungeons & Dragons for us every Sunday. Can you reassure these people? Can we reach out to the community? And we were like, sure, it'll be easy. But we had to take an adventure and make it easy for all the parents to understand and all the people out there who were trying to connect with us.
So one of their guys called us back to the producer and said, hey, listen, can we turn this into kind of an event where we can invite parents to come by and see what this is all about because they're worried?
I actually had a mother who called me at one point, and I readied the speech. Yes, it's not satanic. Yes, we're just having fun. It's a social group. We're getting together and doing these things. And she said, you don't understand. My son came home and asked about classic mythology. Where do I get more of these books? Everybody did board gaming, and then suddenly the role-playing, people talked about it, people were interacting with it, people were interested with it. And the mothers who liked the idea of classic mythology, my kid is not in the basement anymore, he's not just reading by himself, he's getting together with people, and I do believe that because it was suddenly widespread, it's that media effect.
Like Richard and Dianna wrote A Little Dungeon. It's a real nice, plain, simple, 10-room dungeon with some pre-made characters and stuff like that. And we just made copies of it and set up about 20 people. And we invited people to come in, the radio station guys, parents, whoever wanted to, and we just ran them through this little dungeon to show them what it was all about.
We did go through the steam tunnels. We specifically, because everybody was talking about them, and we were all like, what in the heck is this going on? And they were like, it's just like a dungeon. And we're like, no, I don't think so. So we went and kind of poked around. I forget whether it was like the local steam tunnel or if we went somewhere exotic. But it was one of those. Yeah, we had flashlights. It was dirty. I went in, 10 feet and went, no, I don't think so. He was much more explorative. I think we looked around a little and saw some connections and went, this is nothing. LARPing. The live action role playing where people get together and they have a park like the Society for Creative Anachronism where everybody gets down and they all have their costumes and they all do these things. When people get together to play their LARPs, they dress up, they go places, they do things. They are playing the character. I play classic tabletop gaming. I need paper, I need dice. I will role play with you and talk like I'm your character's, father or something like that, but I want dice and paper and my comfortable table with my snacks and my pop.
Right, yep.
It's the LARPing, and I think that some of the steam tunnel stuff was the forerunner of, no, we have to run around like this, we have to put on suits like this. Mm-hmm. But it was so early, and people didn't even understand what role-playing was. There was a whole lot of, well, how do you do this? No, your character wouldn't just hurt himself. He'd say, no, I don't want to hurt. So it was the beginning of that sort of thing, but it was too early, and it didn't catch on until years later.
Right on. I think it's important for us to remember that behind the cheesy movies and behind the jokes and the 1980s made-for-TV movies and novelizations and whatnot, James Dallas Egbert was a real person who died tragically young after a bout with depression, and I think we should acknowledge that, always remember that, and remember his role in the history of our hobby. And with that, I'd like to kind of respectfully dedicate this episode of Pyat's Fortress to the memory of James Dallas Egbert III. And he was a poet. He wrote a lot of poetry when he was in university, and I don't think it would be inappropriate for me to read the final verse of his poem, Final Destination. Whenever I decide there's a place I'd like to be, as soon as I can find there's a goal to be achieved, come the time I'm shown that there's something left for me, then I'll go. But until then, I think I'd rather sleep. That's all for Pyat's Fortress for this time. Talk to you soon.